Hey folks, I'm JC from One Shot Adventures, and today I'm going to talk about something a little different, which is why I'm wearing my glasses of insight. A few weeks ago, the Steve Jackson Games TikTok account asked a really interesting question that surprised fans. What do we want to see from a theoretical 5th edition of GURPS? This question shocked most GURPS fans because GURPS hasn't seen a new edition since 2004, and most fans thought, and probably still think, that the likelihood of a new edition of this very old, respected RPG is pretty slim. It's crazy to me, by the way, that the last edition of GURPS came out almost 20 years ago. It almost makes it eligible for one of my old school reviews where I review old adventures and RPGs to see if they're still relevant or they still have goodness in them. You should watch some of those reviews if you haven't. They're really fun. Now, if you've visited my blog, you'll know that I've authored over 30 free adventures. While I almost always make them available for multiple game systems that I like Call of Cthulhu or Broken Compass, I always write a GURPS version because it's one of my favorite game systems that goes back to when I was a kid first getting into the hobby. There's a lot of things I like and still like about GURPS, but I'll boil them down to 3 things for those of you unfamiliar with this game system. At its essence, GURPS is pretty simple, although it doesn't really have a reputation for being that way, which I'll get into later. Attributes and skills are on a typical RPG scale where 10 is average and 20 is pretty amazing and superhuman, and players just roll 3 6-sided dice and try to roll under their level. The more they make the roll by, the more impressive the result, and GMs can just throw modifiers in tough situations, most of which you can hand wave pretty easily. Like if you're trying to sneak past a bunch of guards that are alert, the game master might say, just make a stealth roll, but that's going to be -3 because those guys are on the lookout. The whole system and the whole game can run like that. I really love this aspect of GURPS because I can teach it in a couple of minutes. I can just hand a player a character sheet and off we go. It's amazing how many times players new to GURPS say at a convention, because I run a lot of these games at conventions, and they just remark how simple it is to play GURPS compared to some of the more sophisticated systems they've played like Pathfinder, where you just have to know a lot more of the rules and mechanics. If you listen to the wonderful Film Reroll podcast, which uses GURPS to role play through various movies like Halloween and The Goonies, it's really fantastic, but you'll see just how much the simplest version of GURPS just fades into the background and lets the players have a good time and storytell. I also really like how GURPS works for almost any genre. If you're a fan of one-shot adventures like me, then this is really valuable because I don't have to keep forcing my friends to learn new game systems, and it's really easy for me to steal other RPGs' great adventures. I can play a Savage Conan adventure one week, jump into Star Trek the next week when I'm in the mood for sci-fi, or run a 1930s Indiana Jones pulp adventure the next week, and I really don't have to teach my players much anything new. And because it works for almost any genre, I can create almost any character that I can imagine from fiction, and that character will just pretty much feel right in play. The third thing that I really like about GURPS is that it's mostly grounded in realism. Getting hit in the head with a bullet or an axe will kill you, and characters get to dodge and parry attacks based on how good they are with their weapon skills. Being strong means that you have more hit points because you got more muscles and more mass, and being smart means that you can more easily pick up skills better and naturally be good at them. Now, there's a dark mirror side to this benefit, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but generally things in GURPS work like they do in the real world. And for the games that I like to play, I really like this feature. Now, some fans will argue that GURPS is so perfect that it doesn't need a 5th edition. It was created flawlessly back in 2004 and will last the next 1,000 years. And I know who you are. You're going to leave comments below. I know you will. But it definitely does need a 5th edition. I mean, games without new editions just eventually kind of fade into Force ghosts. But beyond that, RPG game design has seen a lot of evolution in the last 20 years. We've seen narrative games like Blades in the Dark appear. Other games like Star Wars Edge of Empire steal mechanics from the board game renaissance, which has just evolved spectacularly over the last 20 years. And we've also seen the rise of old school role-playing, which harkens back to a simpler time where you can just create characters in like 5 or 10 minutes and just get into the action with a minimum of game mechanics. Generally, RPGs have tilted towards streamlining, less preparation for busy GMs, which I'm a big fan of, and more inclusion. And I think all of those things have been good for the hobby and have really helped it grow and engage new players. So here are 5 reasons that I think GURPS absolutely needs a 5th edition. The first reason is streamlining. Like back in the days of like the older 3rd edition of GURPS, it all fit into a 256-page book, including an adventure. I actually think Caravan to Aenaris is like way overrated, by the way, but I'll save it for an old school review. 4th edition ballooned to double the size of 3rd edition, 2 books that clock in together at like 576 pages. Now, yes, that includes things that 3rd edition never included, like superpowers and exotic abilities, but seriously, it is too overwhelming, too expensive, and includes so many rules that most players and GMs will never use. I honestly think you could revert GURPS back to 256 pages and fit in all the stuff that like 80% of tabletop groups want to play with. The second reason that I think GURPS needs a 5th edition, and this one's going to get me a lot of hateful comments below, I'm pretty sure, is that GURPS needs to pull back on its obsession with realism. Like, GURPS has this need to be the smartest kid in class and just make sure all of its rules like exactly model reality. I mean, good lord, like, for example, in most of its life, GURPS had pretty simple falling rules. It was like, roll 1 die -2 per yard of falling. It was pretty easy to remember, I used it lots of times. But 4th edition, in its attempt to obsessively model reality and every type of object like giants or mechs, I guess, has a physics-based formula, which means that I generally need to look it up every time I want to do it, which just really slows the game down. I'm falling! Is it going to be fatal? Oh, I think this is gonna hurt. Hold on, how far is the fall? Oh, it's about 13 yards, I think. Oh, wait. Are you landing on something soft or hard? Oh, it looks quite soft. It's the back of a fire demon I'm landing on. Is that better? Oh, that's good. Oh, wait. How many hit points do you have? Oh, maximum hit points or current hit points? I took an arrow from a goblin. Total hit points. Oh, 12. I'm fit too. Does that help? Oh, hold on. Let me just do some quick velocity math here. Divided by 100. Oh, I think you're just dead. Are these new rules more accurate? Yes. But is it more fun, or does it apply to most games? No. And there's so many more examples of this in the GURPS rules, like the jumping rules, which can actually measure exactly like how many inches you can high jump, or the range table, which is so core to the game. And it gives you a different penalty between like shooting at a 5-inch target versus an 8-inch target. And ironically, like later supplements like GURPS Action just simplified this into a range band. But that's where GURPS should start, is it should start with the simplicity and then include optional rules to up the level of realism for the players who really want that kind of detail. Even though I said that GURPS is actually pretty simple to play, if you just hand somebody a character, they can generally figure it out in like under 10 minutes, it's a beast to create those characters. Like, there's so many options to pick from. There's 200 pages of advantages, disadvantages, and skills to pick from in the basic set alone. Someone on the Steve Jackson Games message boards summed up this problem so perfectly. I'm just going to steal this argument with apologies, but they pointed out that the very first advantage listed in the book is 360-degree vision. And sure, maybe some campaigns need 360-degree vision, but this also means that players, to figure out what abilities they want to buy when they're creating a character, you have to read about 360-degree vision before you get to something basic that all campaigns will use, like having a positive reputation or having combat reflexes. I've run so many games of GURPS where like I'll tell my players like, oh, you fell in the water, time to make a swimming roll. And then some veteran player like grabs his head and curses because he forgot to include that skill. Just because there's so many of them, it's easy to skip over the useful ones. Oh, do you want to make an acrobatics roll? Ah, acrobatics, I knew I forgot a skill. And new players, even with a good software tool like GCS, which is a great free character creator for GURPS, they just need a lot of help getting through character creation. I've run a game for teenagers who learn GURPS for the first time, which they really like it, but every time they create characters, it just takes a lot of effort and they have to help each other, and it could just be a lot more streamlined. Now, some GURPS fans will argue that character templates make this problem go away, which it kind of does. A template in GURPS is basically a menu of options. Like if you're a warrior, choose between 2 out of these 5 advantages. But the problem with templates is that it takes away one of the best parts about GURPS, which is the ability to create almost any character that you want. Like, good luck creating a Joaquin Phoenix version of the Joker with a template, or even Mr. Spock with a template. I love that GURPS lets you create like almost any type of character, and templates, while starts to solve the speed problem with character creation, just starts to make GURPS feel a lot like any of the other games that use either classes or templates to create characters. Okay, this next one's gonna be really short. Please ditch the weird painted over poser art that was dated even when the book came out in 2004, and give the new edition good production values. Indie companies like Free League have just really upped the bar here, or just go old school and embrace it like Goodman Games does with like its Dungeon Crawl Classics art. It's old school and very atmospheric and just is a lot of fun. My final reason why GURPS needs a 5th edition is that it's desperate for a "is this fun" editorial pass. This is kind of weird, but hear me out. I think that GURPS sometimes forget that it's meant to be played as a game and enjoyed by people. Like, everything in the book should go through a "does this rule add fun" pass. This definitely applies to some existing rules. Like, if you shoot a shotgun into the skull of a zombie in GURPS, you'll find yourself just doing a lot of calculating that takes away from what should be an awesome, spectacular moment, especially when compared to something else in GURPS like throwing a hatchet into the head of the same zombie, which is a lot more fun and just feels better because it's simpler. Some of the character disadvantages just aren't fun to play, especially to modernize. Like, yes, leisureousness should probably be a disadvantage. It's all over fiction, but it shouldn't be one that would land people in jail today. And I really don't think the spaceship rules were ever actually designed for gameplay. Like, I'm literally a professional game designer. I've spent most of my career doing that. And I've been role-playing in GURPS since the 1980s, and I couldn't figure out how to run a simple Wrath of Khan style spaceship combat. And this also applies to how the rules are written. GURPS is kind of written in this technical manual style. Like, I don't know, it kind of appeared somewhere between 3rd edition and 4th edition, and I just don't think it's a very fun book to read, especially compared to modern RPGs or even earlier editions. Like, don't get me wrong, I respect the precision and the skill that goes into the writing here, but it just makes for a tough sell, again, when games are supposed to be just kind of fun. I could totally keep going here, but I think I've made my point. Oh, and don't forget that if you're interested in trying GURPS out, just grab one of my many adventures on oneshotadventures.com and give it a go. They're all free and they're totally unofficial, but you can also find overviews for those adventures here on my channel. And they all include pre-generated characters and handouts and virtual tabletop assets, which make it easier for GMs to run and play with their friends. And if you do run one of my adventures, be sure to let me know how it goes. I love just hearing your stories. Until next time, I'm JC, and just remember, it's okay not to have 360-degree vision in your RPGs. I don't have it, and I'm doing just fine.